After one brother vanishes without a trace, the others decide to hunt the creature. But what they find is far worse than death. I'm Mr. Midnight Hollow, your terrifying host. If you're already part of our pack, your support means everything to us. Each like, comment, and share helps uncover more stories like this. Or subscribe to see what rises from the depths of darkness and unfolds before you. Now, let's begin. The night came soft and warm over the Harper farm, just outside Macon, Georgia, with crickets humming in the fields and a slow breeze drifting through the old pines. My name is Jack Harper. My siblings, my younger brother Lucas and our sister Maya, and I had spent the day tending cattle, fixing fence posts, hauling hay bales under a sun that seemed to scorch the earth until late afternoon. By the time twilight settled, the ranch felt familiar, safe, ordinary. I remember stepping onto the porch with a mug of coffee, listening to Maya humming a lullaby as she sat on the wooden railing, legs dangling over the edge. Lucas was inside, radio low on the kitchen counter, flipping through channels for a little music before bed. Our father, long gone, had taught us the rhythms of the land. Quiet nights, early mornings, work until dusk. That was the life, and we believed it steady. But that night something didn't sit right. I caught the faint sway of a tree limb out of the corner of my eye. I paused mid-sip. The wind didn't move. The limb moved again, slow, deliberate. Not from the breeze. I squinted. Lightning bugs flickered in scattered patterns across the darkness, but even they seemed hesitant tonight. "Do you see that?" I asked Maya. She shrugged. "Probably just the wind, Jack." I wanted to believe her, wanted to shrug off the feeling prickling beneath my skin, but I couldn't. Later, when Lucas stepped outside to stretch his legs, he called softly, "Hey, look at this." He pointed down the pasture toward the cattle lot. A shape, low, hunched, stood at the fence. I squinted. At first it looked like one of the cows, but then its back arched strangely, teeth glinting silver, and it stepped forward on legs too long for a bovine. It moved with a gait that was human and animal at once. I barely registered the flash of muscle under coarse, dark fur. Maya gasped. She didn't shout. She couldn't. In a blink, the figure was gone. Silence swallowed the night again. The crickets paused. The breeze cut out. We stayed still for a long moment, hearts pounding. Then Lucas pressed himself against the porch door, voice low but shaking. "That thing, it wasn't an animal." I didn't argue. I didn't say anything. I just watched the fence line where we believed the cattle should be grazing, but weren't. I heard Maya exhale. She stepped back inside the dim light of the house. The radio crackled. A country song faded out. Static followed. Then a voice, panicked, distant, as if from 100 miles away. Suddenly the lights flickered once, twice, then died. Dark swallowed us. Seconds later, one of our flashlights fell from the kitchen drawer, clattering to the floor. I grabbed it reflexively, and the beam cut through the darkness like a blade. Maya rushed past me. Lucas followed, both of them breathing heavy, wide-eyed. I swept the light across the kitchen window. Outside, the pasture looked empty. No cattle, no shape. Just open land stretching off into black. "Maybe we should call someone," Maya whispered. I shook my head, voice tight. "No phone signal tonight. Road down again after the last storm." Our nearest neighbor lived a mile away, deep in the woods. It wouldn't help. I told them both to stay inside. I stepped to the porch and shone the light across the pasture. The beam shook slightly in my grip. I found hoof prints, deep ones. 2 sets, wide like from a deer. But then between them, indentations, almost like footprints, humanish. Long toes, heavy stride, but footprints larger than any man I ever saw. And the soil, still soft from runoff earlier that day, held every detail. Elongated claw marks, irregular spacing, gait uneven, but powerful. My breath hitched. Returning to the porch, I looked at Maya and Lucas. I saw their fear mirrored in my own eyes. "We need to keep watch," I said. "Each one of us in shifts until dawn." Maya swallowed hard. "Okay." Lucas nodded. "I'll take first watch. You two sleep." I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, flashlight in hand, eyes trained on the front window. I watched the shadows stretch across the yard. Listened to every whisper in the night. The distant hooting of an owl, the rustle of leaves, the wind pressing against the old boards of the house. Hours passed in silence. Then I heard it. Soft at first, a low pant, like some wounded animal dragging itself across the yard. It came from the back. I froze. The beam of the flashlight jerked toward the back door. The hairs on my neck stood stiff. My gut clenched tight. Then a sound, so soft I almost missed it, a scraping, wood against wood. The back door, slow, deliberate. I took a step forward and stopped. The door was still closed, the lock tight, but I could feel the pressure, something heavy leaning against the wood. "Lucas!" I hissed. No answer. Maya stirred inside. I raised the flashlight high. The beam caught the outline of something pressed against the window pane, something broad-shouldered, hunched low, watching me. The glass fogged over, as if warm breath hit it from outside. I shone it down, toward the house siding. The breathing stopped. A pause. Then the dark face slid away. I stumbled back, heart pounding loud enough I feared it might burst out of my chest. Maya gasped, rose from the couch, went rigid. Light from the kitchen door spilled faintly, but didn't reach the back wall. Shadows pooled in the corners. "No," I said. "No. We leave. Now." Maya backed away, shaking her head. "Lucas, where is he?" Fear washed over me. I looked at every wall, every corner, expecting the silhouette to reappear. But nothing moved. I grabbed my jacket, muttered something to Maya. I told her to grab the spare keys. I told her Lucas and I would check the barn. Maybe Lucas had snuck out without saying. Maybe that's where the rustling came from. I crossed the porch. Outside, the night had turned colder. The wind rose again, sliding through the ferns and tall grass. I followed the faint dirt path toward the barn, flashlight steady in my hand but fingers trembling. The barn door creaked as I pushed. Inside, stacked hay bales, empty stalls, old feed troughs. Nothing. No hoof prints. No sign of Lucas. Just stale burlap scent, dust motes drifting in the beam. I stepped deeper, worry tightening with each footfall. Then behind me, I heard it. A low, guttural growl. No echo, no bounce, just close, too close. I spun. The flashlight beam rattled across the rafters, saw shapes, shadows. Something bulky moved behind the hay bales, step by step, slow, methodical. My lungs froze. I wanted to scream. But the sound died before it left my throat. I backed away, each step careful on the wooden floor. My back hit a stall door. I trembled. The growl stopped. Silence again. Suddenly the beam of the flashlight caught two eyes, bright yellow, reflecting the light. They hovered just above the hay. I met that gaze, wild, ancient, full of hunger. I tried to raise the light higher. My arms shook. The eyes didn't move. I saw not the face, but the intent. Then there was a sound, a snap, a scuffle. I turned away, stumbled, crashed into the wooden beams. Pain lanced through my leg. I fell hard. The flashlight skittered across the floor, spinning its light in arcs. I heard claws, the rasp of nails across wood, then silence. I coughed, tried to move. I couldn't. My leg throbbed, blood warm on my trousers. I reached with trembling fingers for the flashlight, searched the floor with my hand. The beam was dark, dead. I heard breathing, heavy, slow, behind me. I didn't turn. I squeezed my eyes shut. Time stretched. Every heartbeat seemed endless. Then a voice, low, distant, but not human. A hiss, a whisper, as if the darkness itself spoke. And I knew what it was. I tried to scream, only silence came. I smelled it then, wet fur. The stench of damp earth, blood, and something older, darker, the air thick with decay. I tasted iron in my mouth. My breath came ragged. I closed my eyes, prepared for pain, for death. But nothing came. The breathing retreated. The scent faded. A subtle shift in air. When I dared to open my eyes, I saw nothing but darkness. The barn stood empty. No sign of claws, of teeth, of fur, no shape, just silence. I dragged myself forward on trembling arms, leaning on the cold wood. I crawled toward the barn door. The beam from inside the house pressed against the threshold, dim but alive. I crawled out. The night felt colder now, the air sharp. The wind pressed against my face. I half remembered hearing Maya screaming. I told myself it was just memory, a shadow of grief I created to survive. Her voice, weak, broken, came again from the house. "Jack, Lucas, please." I lifted my head toward the open porch. The porch light flickered and died. Darkness swallowed everything once more. I tried to stand. My leg gave out. I collapsed. Pain, sharp and insistent. I forced movement, pushed myself up, took unsteady steps toward the house. Inside, Maya stood frozen, flashlight in hand, face pale. She didn't speak. I didn't ask anything. I grabbed the other flashlight, pockets it in my coat, and guided her outside. She limped. I held her arm. "Get in the truck," I said. My voice steady, low. She hesitated, eyeing the darkness that waited just beyond the porch light. I shoved the keys into her hand. "Now." She moved, slow, terrified. I turned back toward the pasture. The cattle were gone, no sign of movement. The moonlight came through scattered clouds, pale and cold across empty fields. I looked out. Waited, heard nothing but the wind. I reached into the truck pocket. My fingers closed around my father's old revolver, 6 rounds. Silver against the dark, a relic from a different time. Maybe it gave me comfort, maybe nothing at all. I climbed onto the porch, turned back toward the house. Inside, Maya sat, knees drawn up, shaking. I knelt beside her, wrapped an arm around her. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. I flicked open the glove box, found the truck papers, keys, a flashlight, and nothing more. I leaned back against the seat. Outside, the wind whispered against the windows. The fields lay still, empty, silent. We waited for dawn. Morning felt like the hollow after a funeral. Pale light spilled across the fields. The pasture looked calm under the weak Georgia sun. Not a single hoof print left. Not a single trace of cattle or creature. We searched. We called for Lucas. We walked the pasture line, the fence posts, the barn. Nothing. No sign of blood. No overturned gate. No footprints. Neighbors drifted by late in the afternoon, concerned, offered to help. I told them Lucas might have walked out to town, panicked. I avoided the truth, that we suspected something else, something inhuman. That night, the wind picked up again. The croak of frogs filled the air. The old house groaned under shifting boards. I sat in the living room, rifle across my lap. Maya sat beside me, knees drawn up, staring at the window. We didn't speak. We didn't sleep. I held the rifle like a lifeline. The old wood pressed against my skin, the metal cold and heavy. But as the hours dragged, dread grew in my chest. The darkness seemed alive, watching. At exactly midnight, a flash of movement caught my eye. Across the fields, near the old oak tree where we burned brush every spring. A figure there, shadowed, still. Watching. I raised the rifle, choked back fear, pressed the barrel into my shoulder, pulled the trigger once. The report cracked through the night. Loud. Final. The figure dropped. Collapsed between the grasses. We didn't wait. Maya screamed a single word. No! And I slammed the truck into gear. The engine roared. Tires spat gravel. We tore down the dirt road, past fields and tree lines. Headlights sliced through the darkness. The house disappeared behind us. The past hours vanished with each mile. I didn't look back. When the wheels finally stopped, on the paved road into Macon, I realized my hands were shaking, my vision swimming. I opened the glove box. The rifle was gone. Not there. I don't know what we left behind, or what we brought with us. I just know that night didn't end. We never saw Lucas again. We returned to the house the next morning, though every instinct told us not to. The police had shrugged off our concern when we called from a gas station near Macon. Maybe he wandered off, the deputy had said. Young guys disappear for a night all the time. He hadn't heard the way Maya's voice cracked. He hadn't seen the prints near the barn or the eyes glowing from the shadows. Back on the farm, the sun cast a sterile, golden light over everything. It made the horrors of the night feel almost imagined, like some fever dream conjured by stress and sleeplessness. But when I saw the broken gate near the pasture, when I noticed the drag marks in the dirt leading toward the woods, I knew we hadn't imagined anything. Lucas was gone, and something had taken him. Maya barely spoke all day. She cleaned the kitchen 3 times, wiped the same counter until her fingers turned raw. I searched the property for hours, rifle strapped across my back, boots sinking into soft earth. Every now and then, I'd hear a rustle, a bird, a deer, maybe the wind, and my heart would spike. But nothing came out of those trees. At dusk, we sat on the porch again, the same place where we last saw the creature standing by the fence. The air was still. No bugs, no birds, nothing. I keep hearing him in the house, Maya whispered. In the walls, footsteps. I didn't answer. I hadn't heard them, but I felt them, like vibrations in the wood, like pressure in my ears. Something was wrong with this place. We locked everything that night, every door, every window. We moved furniture in front of the back door, loaded the rifle, checked the flashlights. The electricity flickered once, twice, but stayed on. We tried to sleep. But sleep doesn't come easy when you're waiting for something to rip your door off its hinges. At 1:17 a.m., Maya shook me awake. Listen, she whispered. I sat up. The wind was back, but beneath it, something else. A low hum, a dragging sound. Then came the screams, far off beyond the tree line. Male, pained. Then something else. Wet. Final. I ran to the window, flipped the light off, peered through the curtain. The trees swayed, but something moved between them. Fast, powerful. I couldn't make it out clearly. It vanished before I could register its shape. I opened the closet and pulled out our father's old hunting gear, thick jackets, extra rounds. I handed Maya the revolver. She held it like she'd never touched a weapon before. We can't just sit here, I told her. Whatever that was, it's killing something. It could be Lucas, she said, voice breaking. That was all the reason I needed. We left the house, flashlights off, moving by moonlight. The woods behind our property weren't deep. A stretch of pine and oak that led down to the creek, then opened into more farmland. I kept the rifle raised, stepping over fallen branches and wet roots, listening for anything that didn't belong. The smell hit us first. Rotting meat, coppery blood, fur. It was thick in the air, like walking into a slaughterhouse. Then we saw the first body. One of our neighbors, Jesse Rowley, mid-40s, used to run a small equipment repair shop down the road. His torso was torn open, ribs bent outward, his eyes gone, one arm missing. Flies had already started to gather, even in the cold. Maya gasped, and I pulled her back. "Don't scream," I said. We found the second body just 20 feet ahead. Another neighbor, Donna Nichols. Her neck was twisted unnaturally, jaw slack, throat chewed down to tendon and bone. Her flashlight still blinked weakly in the grass beside her. There was a trail of blood leading from her body deeper into the woods. We followed it in silence, and then we heard it. Breathing, deep, steady, not human. I raised the rifle. Maya crouched behind me, pistol in both hands. My light flicked across the brush and caught something moving. Not moving, eating. The shape hunched over a third body. Thick fur matted with blood, back rising and falling with each breath. Its arms were long, too long, ending in claws that glistened red under the moon. I couldn't see its face, but I saw the muscles in its back, the way its spine seemed too large, too curved for any known animal. Maya's hand gripped my coat. "Jack," she whispered. The thing paused. Its head turned. Slowly. Eyes locked onto ours. Not animal eyes. Not fully. Intelligence. It stood. Taller than any man. Nearly 7 feet, thick shoulders, barrel chest, covered in matted hair. Its mouth hung slightly open, rows of yellowed teeth stained with gore. It didn't snarl. It didn't charge. It just looked. Then it stepped forward. I fired. The shot rang out through the woods, echoing like thunder. The creature stumbled back, not much, but enough. Blood sprayed from its shoulder. It didn't fall. It didn't run. It roared. Not a sound, but a vibration that rattled my bones. It lunged. I turned, shoved Maya. "Run!" We bolted through the trees. I fired again, blindly, missed. Branches whipped past. Roots snagged our boots. The thing crashed behind us, not fast but relentless. Its footfall shook the earth. We broke through the woods and reached the field, the house in sight. The porch light flicked again. We dove inside, slammed the door shut, bolted it, moved furniture again. Maya sobbed in the corner, blood on her jacket. Not hers. Jesse's, maybe. I couldn't tell. I peeked out the window. Nothing. No sound. The field was empty, but I knew it was still there. Watching. Waiting. And it had tasted blood tonight. The next night would be worse. Tanner arrived the next morning, his truck rumbling up the gravel drive just after sunrise. He slammed the door, wearing his usual flannel and that cocky smirk he always carried like armor. He was our youngest brother by 5 years, and despite all the warnings, he thought we were exaggerating. He didn't believe in monsters. At least not yet. "You two look like hell," he said, stepping onto the porch, glancing at the boarded-up windows. "What the hell happened here?" "Lucas is missing," I told him. 2 neighbors are dead, mauled." He looked at me, blinked, and the smile died. "What?" "We saw it," Maya said, her voice thin, hollow. "We saw what did it." He paused, studying our faces, searching for the punchline. Then he nodded slowly. "All right. Show me. We walked him to the edge of the woods. The trail of blood was still there, darker now, dried into the soil and leaves. The bodies were gone. The police must have come sometime during the early morning, but they hadn't come to us. No questions, no warnings, just took the corpses and left. They're covering it up, Maya muttered. Or they don't want anyone to panic. Or they don't believe what they saw either, I said. Just another animal attack. Tanner's face hardened. So what are we doing about it? We survive, I said. We stay armed. We wait for help. Tanner shook his head. Screw that. We hunt it. Like it hunted Lucas. His words hit me like a punch. I hadn't said Lucas's name out loud since that night. He turned back to the truck and popped the tailgate, pulled out a shotgun, a scoped rifle, a machete, and 2 boxes of ammunition. You said it bleeds. That means it can die. He was impulsive, hot-headed, but he wasn't wrong. That night, we prepared, fortified the windows, loaded weapons. We took turns on watch again, each of us with a flashlight and firearm. Tanner insisted on taking first shift. I told him not to go far. At 2:13 a.m., the screams woke me. Maya jolted up on the couch. I grabbed the rifle, heart pounding, and rushed to the back door. It was wide open. "Tanner!" I shouted into the darkness. The wind rushed in, cold and heavy with that awful, familiar smell. Decay, iron, fur. I stepped out onto the porch. The grass shimmered with dew. The trees stood still. I followed the sound, flashlight sweeping the dirt path toward the barn. My boots slipped in mud. Then I saw them. Tracks, barefoot, huge, deep, leading toward the woods, and in the dirt, blood. A trail. "Maya, stay inside," I shouted, already running. I followed the trail half a mile into the forest. Every step was worse than the last. The trees closed in around me. My flashlight flickered. The wind whispered. Then I found his flashlight. Crushed. Bent in half like a toy. And 10 feet ahead, something hung from a tree. It was what was left of Tanner. His body had been torn open from sternum to pelvis. His ribcage splayed out like wings. One leg was missing. His eyes stared downward, mouth frozen mid-scream, guts spilled in loops into the ferns below. I fell to my knees, vomited, cried, screamed. But the sound got swallowed by the woods. Then I heard the growl, close. I turned, rifle shaking in my hands. The trees were silent again, but I could feel it, watching, breathing, waiting. I fired once into the trees. A shape moved, fast, left to right. I couldn't track it. I fired again. Nothing. I grabbed what I could of Tanner's body, his dog tags, his ring. I couldn't carry the rest. There was too much, and he was barely recognizable. I ran back to the house, stumbling, covered in blood. Maya met me at the door. One look at my face, and she knew. She collapsed, screamed into her hands. I said nothing. Just dropped the tags on the table and locked the door behind me. The sun didn't rise for hours. But I sat there the whole time, rifle across my lap. The memory of my brother hanging from that tree burned into my skull. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just killing. It was hunting. And it was enjoying it. Morning came gray and cold, heavy with a fog that clung low across the fields. The kind of morning that makes your bones ache before you even step outside. I hadn't slept. Maya sat in silence at the table, Tanner's dog tags in her fist, the revolver on her lap. She hadn't spoken since I came back. Neither of us touched breakfast. We just waited. By 9 a.m., I walked the perimeter again. I needed to keep moving, keep busy, or else the image of Tanner hanging from that tree would never leave my head. That's when I saw them. Tracks, large, deep, pressed into the wet soil behind the barn. The same prints I'd seen that first night. Humanoid, but wrong. The toes were too long, the heels too narrow, each foot over 1.5 feet in length. The stride was wide, maybe 7 feet between steps. Whatever it wasn't moving cautiously. It was stalking. I followed them around the side of the barn, past the fence line, through the tall grass toward the tree line. The prints wove in and out of cattle paths. At one point I found blood again, old, dry, brown at the edges. Not tanners, something else. Then the smell returned, that awful reek of rot and fur and copper. I froze, gun ready, movement to my left. I spun, nothing. Just wind pushing through the cornfield. I marked the spot with an old ribbon from the tool shed and backed off. I wasn't going in alone again. Back at the house, Maya looked up. "You found more?" I nodded. "It's still around, close." Her jaw tightened. "So what do we do?" I didn't have a plan. Just instinct, rage, fear. But then I remembered something. Something buried in the back of my head from when we were kids. Something Dad said once, late at night when he thought we were asleep. "It's not just stories," he'd whispered to Mom. "It's real. I saw it in '89, same stretch of woods. Thought I could trap it. But it doesn't die like other things." At the time, I thought he was drunk, rambling. But now? I went to the old shed. It hadn't been opened in years. Dust coated everything. But in the back, under an old tarp, I found it. A steel cage, reinforced with chains and iron bars. Not rusted, maintained. As if he'd kept it ready. There were claw marks on the inside. Long, deep. He knew. He knew it was real. And he never told us. I brought Maya out to see it. She stared, silent. He tried to catch it. "Looks that way," I said, and he failed. Inside the shed I found more, old notes, maps, newspaper clippings from the '80s and '90s, local disappearances, animal attacks, always dismissed, buried, but always the same pattern. New moon, mutilated victims, strange sightings in the woods near Macon. This thing wasn't new. It had been feeding for decades. I handed Maya one of the clippings. Her hands shook. "There's a cycle," I told her. "It hunts every few weeks, always close to the new moon. That's tomorrow night." She nodded. "Then we stop it before it gets another chance." We spent the rest of the day preparing the trap, reinforcing the cage, anchoring it to the barn foundation, running chains across the floor. We dug a pit beneath it, 2 feet deep, filled it with sharpened rebar, then covered it with hay. If we couldn't kill it outright, we'd injure it, slow it down. I rigged motion sensors, tied bells to the fence lines, and scattered deer blood as bait. Everything Dad had left behind, we used. That night, we didn't sleep again. We waited. Just before 2 a.m., the first bell rang. We both stood, rifles in hand, hearts racing. Then the second bell. Closer. Outside, the sensors triggered. A red light blinked near the barn. Something had entered the trap perimeter. I grabbed the flashlight. Maya followed, silent. We stepped out onto the porch. The field beyond was bathed in faint moonlight. The fog rolled low, hugging the grass. Then we saw it. Not clearly, just a shadow. A massive silhouette moving low along the barn's side, its breath steaming into the cold air. It paused, looked right at us. Even from that distance I could feel it, the weight of its stare. Then it bolted. Straight into the barn. The bells screamed, chains rattled. Metal groaned. Then silence. I raised the rifle. Maya aimed the flashlight. We approached slow, careful. The barn door was open. Inside, the cage was smashed, bent at one corner, empty. The rebar trap was triggered, stained dark. Something had stepped into it, but whatever it was, it had crawled out again. Blood marked the straw. Dark, fresh. Maya stepped back, horror dawning on her face. "It was in the trap," she whispered, "and it got out." I scanned the walls. One corner, where the boards met the ceiling, had been split wide. A hole. A way out. We followed the blood trail out back. It led into the woods again, but this time something else caught my eye. Another set of prints, boot prints. Someone else had been there, following it, or guiding it. And at the edge of the woods, just before the trail vanished into the trees, we found something that stopped both of us cold. Lucas's backpack. Not torn, not dirty, just sitting there. Like it had been placed on purpose, as a message. The discovery of Lucas's backpack shattered something in me. It wasn't just the fact that it was clean, untouched, undamaged. It was the placement, deliberate, centered in the clearing, no sign of a struggle around it, no blood, no torn fabric. Someone wanted us to find it. We brought it back inside, opened it under the kitchen light. Everything was neatly arranged. His jacket, a pocket knife, a notebook, a half-empty bottle of water. No signs of panic. No rushed packing. He hadn't been running. He'd packed this bag like he was going somewhere. Maya sat at the table, flipping through the notebook. Her voice was quiet. This is new. He wrote these the day before he disappeared. What does it say? She turned the book toward me. His handwriting was uneven, rushed, some entries barely legible. He's watching me at night. I hear the steps outside my window. It wasn't an animal. I saw its hands, like a man's, but wrong. Too long? I think it knows who we are. Sometimes I think Dad knew. I think it let him live. The last page was different. Scribbled hastily, the ink darker, smeared at the bottom like he'd closed the book fast. I have to go. It's calling me. We stared at each other in silence. Maya whispered, "What if he didn't die that night? What if it took him and changed him?" The thought turned my stomach. No, that's not possible. We saw the thing. It wasn't human. But what if it was once? I didn't answer. Couldn't. My mind was spinning too fast. By noon, Sheriff Hoyt showed up with 2 deputies. They didn't ask about the blood in the barn, didn't mention the trap, just asked us if we'd seen any suspicious animals. I told them about the prints, about the sounds. I didn't say the word, didn't say werewolf, but I could tell they were already dismissing us. Hoyt leaned on the porch railing, chewing a toothpick. "You folks need to stay inside. Whatever's out there, it'll move on." "It's already killed 3 people," I said. Hoyt didn't flinch. "You see it kill them?" I stared at him. His face was too calm, too composed. "No," I admitted. He nodded once. "Then maybe it was a bear. Or maybe folks saw something they didn't understand." Maya stepped forward. "Are you covering for it?" That got a reaction. One of the deputies shifted, hand brushing the grip of his pistol. Hoyt didn't answer. He just turned and walked back to his cruiser. They left without another word. That night, we didn't wait at the house. We went hunting. We took everything, rifles, flashlights, silver ammunition we found in Dad's locked drawer. I didn't ask why he had it. At this point, I didn't want to know. Maybe he'd hunted this thing before. Maybe he failed. We weren't going to. We left just before sunset, heading into the woods, following the tracks from the night before. They were fresher now, still damp in the dirt, deeper, limping. Whatever the trap had done, it had wounded the thing. Good. We tracked it north, past the creek, into deeper woods, older trees, twisted branches, places we hadn't walked since we were kids. The air changed there, heavy, wet. The wind barely moved, and the birds had gone quiet again. After an hour of walking, we heard it, footsteps, not from ahead, from behind. We spun, rifles raised. Nothing. Then to the left, a low rustle, a branch snapping. I raised my flashlight, beam slicing through the dark, eyes reflected, low to the ground, watching. I fired. The flash lit up a shape, massive, lunging to the side. I hit something, heard it crash into a tree. A snarl echoed, deep and wet. Then came the roar, not from one direction, but two. Maya spun. "There's more than one!" I didn't have time to process it. The first one hit me like a truck, shoulder to chest, knocking me back into the dirt. My rifle flew from my hands. Its weight was crushing, fur against my face, teeth snapping inches from my neck. I shoved with everything I had. My fingers found the machete at my belt. I swung. The blade sank into its side. A howl split the air. It reared back, blood spraying from the wound, and I rolled free. Maya fired. The shot caught it in the shoulder, spinning it sideways. It didn't fall. It ran. We didn't chase it. We ran the opposite direction, but we weren't alone. The second one came from the trees, grabbing one of the volunteers we'd brought. Dave Carlson, our neighbor. It lifted him like a rag doll, slammed him into a tree with a sickening crunch. His body folded in half. Then it turned to us. I raised my pistol. Maya was out of ammo. We backed up slowly, step by step. Then from the right, movement. Another shape, this one smaller. Lucas. His face was gaunt, eyes bloodshot, clothes torn. But it was him. "Don't shoot," he said. Voice trembling. The creature paused, looked at him, then stepped back. I froze. "What are you doing here?" I asked, barely believing what I saw. Lucas didn't answer. He looked at the creature, then at me. "It's not what you think," he said. And then he disappeared into the trees, with the thing following close behind. We were left standing in silence, blood on the leaves, Dave's body broken beside us. It was never just a monster. It was something more, something connected to us. We buried Dave Carlson in the clearing where we lost him. There wasn't enough left of him to carry back. Just shattered limbs, torn muscle, and a twisted look of terror frozen on his face. We stacked rocks over what was left and said nothing. Back at the house, we didn't speak for hours. Maya sat on the porch with her head in her hands. I stayed inside, pacing the living room, rifle across my lap. My mind kept going back to Lucas, his eyes, his voice. "It's not what you think." What the hell did that mean? The next morning, I went back to Dad's shed, the place we'd been avoiding since we found the cage. I needed answers. I tore through everything, drawers, boxes, cabinets. Maya joined me after a while, silent but focused. We found more newspaper clippings, all local, all the same patterns, livestock torn apart, people gone missing, odd sightings in the woods. But there was one thing I hadn't seen before. A notebook, bound in black leather, shoved into a lockbox behind the old propane tank. It was Dad's journal. We opened it and read in silence. He'd been tracking the creature since 1989. He'd first seen it just after the new moon, near the same creek where we'd spotted it a few nights ago. Back then it had killed a hunter, someone from town, ripped his chest open. The sheriff had blamed it on a cougar, but Dad hadn't bought it. He followed the prints, watched the creature from a distance, and eventually he learned something else. It wasn't always a creature. Sometimes it was a man. He never wrote the name, just initials LH. But the journal grew darker with each entry. He described catching it once. Barely. Injuring it, locking it in the cage. For 2 nights, it didn't change back. Then, on the 3rd night, it spoke. Not in words, in thoughts. Dad called it a voice inside the skull. He said it knew him. Called him by name. Said they were connected. And then it escaped. The pages after that were frantic, paranoid. He wrote about dreams, about being hunted, about something inside the bloodline. Something passed down. Maya turned to the last page, dated 6 months before Dad died. A single sentence. If it takes Lucas, there's no stopping it. We stared at each other. No, Maya said, shaking her head. No, that can't be what he meant. But we both knew it was. Lucas hadn't just been taken. He was chosen. I stood up, the journal still in my hand. We need to find him. Tonight. Maya nodded. And if he's not him anymore? I didn't answer. We waited until sundown, then followed the path from the night before. The blood trail was gone, but the boot prints were still there. Lucas's. We tracked them past the creek, deep into the woods where the trees grew so thick the moonlight barely touched the ground. That's when we found the clearing. An old hunting camp, long abandoned, moss climbing the cabin walls. But the fire pit in the center was fresh, still warm. Ash smoldered. A logbook sat on the ground, half burned. I flipped through it, hands shaking. Inside were sketches, notes, diagrams of human anatomy, pages dedicated to transformations, to blood types. One page was titled Blood Triggers. Another one read, "The howl is not instinct, it's communication." Then we heard it, a low, drawn-out howl. Not far. We moved fast. Maya held the flashlight. I had the rifle ready. We came to a second clearing. At the edge stood a figure. Lucas, shirtless, eyes glowing faint yellow in the dark. His chest was scarred, arms covered in fresh cuts. He looked thinner, ferocious, wild. But he smiled when he saw us. "I knew you'd come," he said. "Lucas," Maya said, voice cracking. "Come home, please." He tilted his head. "Home? You mean the house where Dad lied to us for years? Where he hid what we are?" I raised the rifle. "What we are?" I asked. He stepped forward. He knew I had it, knew I was different. That's why he kept me close, why he didn't let me leave. He was trying to control it, like he controlled everything else. "You were bitten," I said. "That thing took you, changed you." "No," he said, eyes narrowing. "I was born like this, just like he was." The words hit like a freight train. Maya staggered back. "That's not true." Lucas smiled wider. "You think Dad was just some hunter? He was one of them, but he tried to bury it, to deny what he was. He used silver, tried to suppress the blood, but it never left." I lowered the rifle slightly. "Why tell us this now?" "Because I want you to understand," he said. "You can't kill it. You can't stop it. It's in us." Then he stepped back into the shadows. That's when the growls began. Not one, multiple, from the trees. We were surrounded. The first shape lunged from the left, tall, furred, snarling. Maya shot it in the face. It dropped. But another came from behind, clawed her back. I fired at its head, and it stumbled, but didn't fall. I grabbed Maya and pulled her toward the creek. We ran blind, through thorns, mud, roots. Something chased us, but didn't close in, just followed, herding us. When we reached the clearing near the old cabin again, Lucas was there, alone. "I told them not to kill you," he said. "I said you could be turned, that we could be together." "Then why chase us?" I shouted. Because you need to see what we are, he said, voice rising. His body began to shake. Bones popped, skin stretched. We watched as his form twisted, arms elongating, jaw snapping forward, eyes burning yellow. Hair spread down his chest and arms, claws burst from his fingers. In seconds, he wasn't Lucas anymore. He was it, the creature, and it wasn't done changing. Behind him, more shapes emerged from the trees. 5, maybe 6. Not beasts, not men. Something in between. We backed into the water of the creek, rifles up, hearts pounding. Maya turned to me, voice low and trembling. "We're not getting out of here alive, are we?" I looked at the rifle, at the silver rounds in my pocket. "Not unless we kill him." The first drop of rain hit my face as we backed deeper into the creek. A warm, humid wind rolled through the trees, bending the branches, stirring the leaves. The sky above boiled dark with thunderclouds, lightning flashing along the horizon. A storm was coming. One that didn't care who lived or died. Lucas, no, the thing that used to be Lucas, stepped into the water after us. His claws dripped with creek water and blood. His body fully shifted now, all muscle and teeth and black fur. Behind him, 5 others flanked the banks. One limped from the trap wound we'd left 2 nights ago. Another moved with unnatural grace, sniffing the air like it knew us. We were outnumbered, outmatched, but not unarmed. I chambered a silver round, my finger shaking against the trigger. Maya stood beside me, bleeding from her shoulder, the revolver raised with both hands. "I don't want to shoot him," she whispered. "He's not your brother anymore," I said. But even as the words came out, I didn't believe them. The storm broke overhead with a violent crack of thunder. The trees whipped in the wind, and the sky opened in a sheet of rain. And then the wolves attacked. The first came from the right, low, fast, a blur of claws and rage. I fired, and the bullet caught it in the leg. It shrieked and tumbled into the water. Another leapt for Maya, and she fired point blank into its chest, the silver round punching through with a flash of blood and fur. But they kept coming. One crashed into me, driving me under the surface. The cold water closed over my head. I fought blind, grappling with fur and sinew, clawed hands pushing me down. My fingers found the hunting knife strapped to my belt. I drove it upward. The blade sank into something soft. The weight lifted. I broke the surface, gasping. Maya screamed. I turned, saw her being dragged toward the bank by one of the creatures, its jaws clamped around her leg. She kicked, swung the revolver, and fired again, this time catching it in the neck. It fell back into the creek, howling. I scrambled to her side. Her leg was shredded, pouring blood. She was pale, shaking. "They're not dying fast enough," she gasped. "Jack, they don't go down." Another came at us. I fired again. The round hit its chest. It fell, twitched, and didn't get back up. Silver. That was the key. The others circled us, cautious now, watching, learning. Then Lucas stepped forward. His body was a nightmare. Twisted human and beast, eyes burning with something that wasn't rage. It was worse. Conviction. He didn't lunge. He spoke. Not in words, but inside my head. "You don't have to die. This is what we were always meant to be." I gritted my teeth. "You're not my brother." Maya lifted the revolver, aimed it at his chest. He didn't flinch. "I'll come back," he said in our heads. "I'll bring you with me, even if it's in pieces." I fired. The shot hit him in the shoulder. He staggered but didn't fall. He roared. The others joined in, and they charged. We turned and ran, dragging ourselves through the rain, slipping in mud, falling over roots. Behind us, claws tore the earth. Bodies crashed through brush. Lightning flashed, showing glimpses of fur and fangs just feet away. We reached the old hunting cabin, Barely standing, roof half collapsed. It was our only chance. I kicked the door open. Maya collapsed inside, legs slick with blood. I slammed the door shut, barred it with a beam. The wolves hit it seconds later, shaking the whole structure. We were trapped. But not unprepared. Dad's journal had mentioned the cabin. Said he left supplies here. Silver. I tore through drawers, found an old metal case behind the fireplace. Inside, silver rounds, dozens of them. Maya loaded the revolver. I reloaded my rifle. The door cracked. We backed to the center of the room. "I'm not going down like this," she said. "Neither am I." The door exploded inward. The first creature through got a round in the face. Its skull exploded in a flash of blood and bone. The second took one in the gut. The third ducked. Lucas came in last. We fired everything. The room filled with smoke, blood, screams, wood splintered, bodies fell. Claws raked my arm. I shot blind. Then it was just Lucas. He leapt. We hit the ground together, rolling across broken glass and shattered floorboards. He was stronger, faster. But I had the knife. I stabbed. Once, twice. He grabbed my wrist, forced the blade down, his face inches from mine. Saliva dripped onto my cheek. "I could have saved you," he said inside my mind. "Then you should have stayed dead," I growled. I jammed the blade into his throat. Silver cut muscle and tendon. He choked, staggered back, blood pouring from his mouth. He stumbled into the fireplace. Collapsed. I didn't move, didn't breathe. He didn't get up. Outside, the storm started to fade. The others, whatever was left, had fled. Maya pulled herself to her feet, limping to my side. "Is it over?" she whispered. I looked at Lucas's body, at the blood. I wanted to believe it, but I knew better. Dawn came slow and red, bleeding through the treetops like a warning. We left the cabin in silence, soaked in blood and mud, our limbs barely working. Lucas's body lay still in the fireplace, eyes open but empty. The silver knife still protruded from his throat. We didn't bury him. We couldn't. Back at the house, Maya collapsed onto the couch. I wrapped her leg, poured whiskey over the wounds, stitched what I could. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The silence was worse than the screams from the night before. Around noon, the power came back. The TV clicked on. The local news anchor looked pale, rattling off some sanitized report about a string of violent animal attacks near Macon. The police had no suspects. Authorities were monitoring the situation. I turned it off. They were never going to tell the truth. They knew. Sheriff Hoyt, those deputies, they'd probably been covering for this thing for years, maybe even helping it. Maybe one of them was one of them, but I didn't care anymore. We had survived. That was enough. For now. That night I dreamed of Lucas. Not how he looked at the end, but when we were kids, chasing frogs in the creek, racing through the hayfields, laughing like the world couldn't touch us. Then, in the dream, his face changed. Hair sprouted, eyes turned yellow. And he whispered the same words I heard in the woods. "It's in the blood." I woke up drenched in sweat. The sheets soaked. My skin burning hot. I stumbled to the bathroom, washed my face, looked in the mirror. My eyes looked strange, not glowing, but different, sharper. I gripped the edge of the sink. The memory of the fight came back. The scratches down my side, the blood that wasn't all his. Did he bite me? No. I would have known, wouldn't I? I pulled my shirt up. There on my ribs, a deep gash. I thought it was from the claws, but the edges weren't torn. They were puncture marks, teeth. My breath caught. I stumbled back, almost fell. My heart slammed against my ribs. I rushed outside into the cool night, the stars above blurred. My skin prickled with something hot and wrong. My hands were shaking. Maya stepped onto the porch behind me, limping. "Jack? What is it?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the smell of the grass was too strong, the wind too loud. I could hear the heartbeat in her chest, hear the blood moving through her. I backed away. "Maya," I whispered, "you need to leave." Her eyes widened. "Why?" "Because I don't think it's over." She stepped closer. "Jack, what are you saying?" I looked up at the moon. It wasn't full. Not yet. But I could feel it pulling at something inside me, something waking, something hungry. I turned away, ran into the woods. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Because I understood now. Lucas hadn't been infected. He'd been awakened. And now it was my turn. The curse didn't die with him. It just found a new host. What happened on that Georgia farm is a brutal reminder that some bloodlines are cursed, and not every monster hides in the shadows. The hunt may be over, but the beast that now wears a familiar face is only just beginning its reign. If your pulse raced through that final fight, drop a like and tell us in the comments. Would you have pulled the trigger? Share this video with someone who thinks werewolves are just stories. They need to know what really howls in the night. And if you have the courage to face what's coming next, subscribe to Mr. Midnight Horror and ring the bell, because the next time the moon turns red, you'll want us by your side.